Man, I don't know what we're gonna watch for episode 100. Ugh, there's so many movies on
Oh.
this list.
Uh,
Um, I'll
got
just
any?
start. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
start reading some. Let's see what we got. How about All Dogs Go to Heaven 2?
No,
Uh, Angel Dog, Devil
no,
Dog, Sky
no,
Dog,
no,
Top Dog, Vampire Dog, Comic Dog,
no.
Cool
Come,
Dog,
Boyks, please.
Underdog, Karate Dog.
Okay. I've got one. I
Okay,
see Cop Dog,
now,
Soccer Dog, the movie,
eh,
Dognapped, Oh Heavenly Dog, The Dog Father, Show
no.
Dogs, Millionaire Dogs, Step Dogs, Chili Dogs.
No, I'm not feeling any of those. What about the Shaggy Dog? The Shaggy DA?
No,
The dog who saved Halloween. The dog who saved Easter. The dog who saved Christmas Vacation.
no.
Shelby the
I
dog who
don't.
saved Christmas. Mariah
I don't
Carey's
want
All I
any
Want for Christmas
saving. No
Is You.
saving dogs.
Santa Paws 2. The Santa Pups. Santa Stole Our Dog. A Merry Doggone Christmas. A Doggone Christmas. That one's different than the other
No,
one.
how? Yeah, I don't care. How about those? All sound terrible. How about A Hotel for Dogs? Who should get the dog? Dude, where's my dog? My dog, the space traveler. Robo Dog. Robo Rex. Chomps. That's the acronym, by the way, or AXL.
Oh, okay.
Okay, fine. I'll go there. Airbud 2 Golden Receiver.
Fuck, I'm not going to watch Airbud 2. How about Airbud 4? Airbud Spikes Back. No. Alright, well, Spooky Buddies. Super Buddies. Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo 2.
No.
Monsters Unleashed.
Eh,
Cats and Dogs. Cats and
Nah.
Dogs. The Revenge of Kitty Galore.
I'm not gonna watch.
Alright, well, fine. What about some comic stuff? What about Marmaduke?
Fuck, I'm not gonna do Marmaduke. But Garfield, Tale of Two Kitties.
Nah.
How about Digby, the biggest dog in the world? Then
No, definitely not.
Pet Cemetery 2, 102 Dalmatians, Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2, Beethoven Second,
Too many twos.
Quigley, or Bingo.
No. Well, if we're going to do, like, name dogs, how about Benji the Hunted? Scent of Murder. The Deadly Eyes of that Benji. Look Who's Talking Now. Quick Play Dead. Man's Best Friend. Better call some Sherlock Bones.
Nah, those sound awful. How about Behave Yourself? The
Nah.
Pack? Okay,
No, I don't like the Pack.
how about The Pack? A
Hmm?
different movie.
No.
How about The Doberman Gang? They
Mm,
rob banks. Love on a Leash? Doggy Boogie. Star Paws?
No. How about Dr. Dolittle 4, Tale to the Chief? That's the President movie.
Yeah.
Russell Madness. Molly
What is
Moon and the Book to
wrestling?
Hypnotism. The Bracelet of Bordeaux. Oh,
Wait, I've got it.
Yeah. Dogs. Yeah.
You know what?
Wait, no.
Fuck this. I don't
no.
want to. You know what? Let's not do a regular dog movie today. Let's do werewolf movies. We can do something different. Let's just do a werewolf. How about
Okay.
High Moon or Teen Wolf? Teen Wolf 2? Dogman. We could do Dogman.
Dogman? No, that's dumb. Let's watch the sequel, Dogman 2, Wrath of the Litter. How about Wolf
Okay.
Cop 2? Another Wolf Cop. All right, well, how about Howling 2? Your sister's a werewolf.
That's a lot of twos. How about Howling 5, The Rebirth? Or Howling 7, New Moon Rising? Or Wolves?
Wolves are dumb. What about Werewolves Within? Or
Mm.
Little Dead Rotting Hood? Monster Dog.
Okay.
Wait, is there... Yeah.
I just want something very different. I'm not gonna. I don't want to do Monster Dog, but monsters maybe. How about we could probably justify something like Krull?
Yeah, there's monsters in Krull, but maybe not today.
Okay. Well, the biggest monster that I know is my mom, so we could do Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Nah. What about Animorphs? People love Animorphs. Yeah. Food Fight? Mac and Me, very popular. It's got McDonald's in it.
That's true. Masters of the Universe, though, does have Battle Cat and stuff, so I'm sure that's probably dogs. Or
yeah, kids love cats. Yeah.
Or we could talk to the preeminent comedic genius Jamie Kennedy. Do Son of the Mask.
No, if I was gonna talk to a comedic genius, I'd talk to Zack Snyder and watch the Super Friends.
Hmm.
Or
All
Munchie
right.
2, Munchie Strikes Back.
I don't want to do. You know what? We could do Super Mario Brothers.
Nah. Yeah.
Okay. How about Yatterman? Just do good movies.
Let's go back to video games. Is there another video game?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Nah.
That's like a
What
dog.
about that Cats movie? That's got dogs in it, right?
You're such a bitch. And that's
Listen
every
here.
movie we've watched. Bitch being the last one. Gotcha.
God damn it. God damn it. Fine, we'll watch Twilight. Jesus.
All right, we're watching Twilight.
Dogs, they're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon.
I'm the world's most dangerous predator. Everything about me invites you in. My voice, my face, even my smell. It's not you.
It's not you, it's me, right? Really?
It's true. It is me. I'm not good.
So you're a werewolf.
Yeah. Doesn't he own a shirt?
Okay, 5 minutes of that is probably enough. Sure, that's good. We'll say that's fine.
Whatever.
That's
Fine.
I think the length is acceptable.
Man.
I saw that opportunity with the last one and I fucking took it.
We watched a
Welcome
lot
to
of
Rough
movies.
Cuts. This is
Yeah.
episode 100. Thank you all for being here. It's been a long time. I don't want any loud noises. I've been in the Twilight Zone for a long time. No.
It's
Thank
very
you for the
quiet.
slide whistle. But
Very quiet.
yeah, I'm Ilyon, one of your two co-hosts, and the other is right here, Boyks.
Hey, I'm
Hello.
Boyks. Hello.
We decided after consulting all of you that we would watch the start of the Twilight series, and then the second start of the Twilight series, and then the third start of the Twilight series. We watched 3 Twilight movies, is what I'm trying to say, but not all of them because there are actually 5, and we weren't going to do 10 hours of Twilight.
That
6
is
was
so
enough.
much Twilight.
It's a lot of Twilight.
Yeah, it's frustrating too because like I can't imagine 2 more movies adding anything to this story because it's not going anywhere already. So I'm like, where are they
Oh
going?
no, I can. I really
Oh,
wanted to
man.
watch the last 2 at the end of this, honestly, because I've heard a lot too. I haven't spoiled basically anything on Twilight before. Like I've avoided most of that discourse because I knew that it just kind of wasn't going to be my thing. So I didn't really care about, jumping in on the discourse of it. I'm not going to read it to justify back and forth either opinion or whatever about how toxic it is or isn't, or whether it's okay to have whatever, all the stuff that goes along with what Twilight is. But I have heard, despite that, many times that if you're going to watch the Twilight movies, the final 2 are really fun. Like they're actually legitimately really fun to watch because they have to finally resolve all the plot kind of stuff they've been alluding to, and it just fucking goes like in the dumbest possible ways. Like it just does some very, very stupid garbage, but in like a really over the top way that's fun to watch. And I could actually see that happening here. That being said, that's not the first 3 movies. Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't. These movies are weird. They're weird. I don't even know where to start.
I'd like to mention just some quick things here. I do want to say, like, because of course with Twilight, I do think that with the discourse, it's been done to death a little bit. That like, it's Twilight, sparkly Edward, ha ha ha, romance is funny. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to do that.
No.
So I know I'm just like, I want to get it out of the way that we're not really doing that. There's a lot of parts of this that I liked. There's also a lot of it that's just very bad and very dumb. Like, there's a lot of very
Agreed.
fucking stupid garbage in this, and that's the stuff that I want to talk about. Is just kind of back and forth. I do want to say though, like, for the actual actors and the way that everything's shot in general, it's pretty okay. Like, it's got
Really?
production. So some of the green screen stuff is fucking awful. I want to talk about
It's
that.
real bad. Yeah.
But, like,
I have
there's
other
other
problems
parts
than
of
just
it.
green screen, though. Like, I have some problems with the way it's shot. First of all, they use the cold blue color palette constantly in editing. So everything is just washed with the color of blue at all
Yes.
times. And it looks real bad. In the first movie, everything
Uh-huh.
is shot at like a weird Dutch angle to the point where it looks like Battlefield Earth. And they fixed that in the second movie. They fixed it.
Well, I was gonna say they fixed the color palette issues by the third.
By the third,
The-
they stopped
the-
washing literally everything in blue.
They
Yes.
they stopped washing things in blue. In the first one, they're doing that to justify why Edward is not in sunlight, quote unquote, because he is
Uh-huh.
in Forks, Washington, where it's rainy all the time, and so he's able to be out in the sunlight most of the time because it's actually overcast. So it's fine. Vampires totally cool in the rain.
I have something to admit to. I have been to Forks, Washington, actually. I went there to camp a couple years ago on the beach and get some Milky Way photos, which was great. But there's a little known thing about Forks in that Forks has become a bit of a Twilight mecca.
Yeah, I imagine.
And now everything in Forks is like Twilight branded, Twilight signs. There's Cullen signs and werewolf stuff everywhere. And man, it's wild because like half of the town is Twilight, and half of the town is like.
Do you do that a lot?
Yeah, just like old small town
couple
stuff.
months.
Yes.
Nothing at all, and it's so weird, man. But
I like watching you
okay,
sleep.
if we're gonna say something nice about the cinematography,
Yes, I'm trying to say. I'm saying that
Yes.
we should say something nice before we say all the mean things.
they do a really good job of highlighting.
I just want to try one thing.
The coast and the
You
forest.
stay very still.
And
Yeah.
all the nature area around Forks and the Olympic Cascades.
Yes.
The big national forest, or
Don't
I
move.
guess not the Olympic Cascades.
They have some
Cascade
cool
Mountain,
shots
the
of like
Olympic National
foggy forest, foggy old growth forest and stuff. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like I really like that old growth, like moss covered trees and stuff.
And that's
they've had
exactly
some
what it looks
cool
like
shots
here.
of that. Yeah.
It is. The coast is exactly what the coast looks like here. They shot that on, I assume, on location because it looks like a Pacific Northwest coast. Like
It might
all
be in
that
Vancouver
stuff.
area. Yeah.
It looks great. Any of the drone shots look good. I think they did a
Yeah,
fantastic
that's
job on
kinda
that. Yeah. Everything that involves editing looks good. That's what I want to say.
Sure. Yeah. All of the visual effects are cheesy and to the point of like eliciting laughter most of the time from me.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry.
100%.
Instead, like when it's supposed to be an action
Strong
scene
enough
and I am like dying laughing.
Yeah,
that's
I wish I could say the same.
Probably
Yeah.
not exactly where they want. Like there's a lot of that. They do a lot of the vampires
never
move
lose control
fast,
of you.
so they get stretchy. They do
Yeah.
like they have like
It's like the Flash.
they do. Yes, yeah. They
don't go.
have after images of themselves, which gets very funny when Edward Yoda's her around places. She's just like this little Yoda doll on the back of
He,
Edward. just
he
like,
does. Yeah, he
training
Edward
we wanna
wears
do.
Bella
Edward.
like a backpack. It's true. Yeah.
It's really good when she's on his back all Yoda and he's like racing through the forest and it's just all green screened and it's just yeah, stuff like that is awful. But like you said, like a lot of the drone shots and things like that. I think that they actually have some moments of legitimate meant to be humor, one or two in the three movies that I actually thought was funny. I just remember in the first one I had a note for he was talking about like all the different people around town. It's like, well, like you don't know what their problems are or whatever. And he's like that guy, or like he was reading their minds when he was doing the mind reading thing. He's like,
Oh, by the way, Edward has telepathy.
yeah, but it doesn't work on Bella because
It
she's
doesn't
special.
work on. Well, okay. Man,
Hold on. Let me do my funny moment.
Yeah,
real quick.
sorry, go ahead.
So he's reading everybody's minds, and he's like, "Oh, that guy's like sex money. He's doing that thing, and he's like, "That guy, cats." And the guy looks at him and just shrugs, like he's like holding a cat kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
this
it's
big
true.
trucker dude, and I'm like,
True.
okay, that's pretty fucking funny. It's like, does this guy also have telepathy that he just knows that his brain's being read and that everybody knows that he loves cats so fucking much? It was just great.
Man,
So every
yeah.
once in a while, there's a few things that I just wanted to say that were really good. Other than that, yeah, let's get into it. This movie's fucking garbage. Let's talk.
All right, so things you might not know about Twilight if you've not read or watched Twilight. I also have to admit I have read the
I
first
learned so
Twilight
much.
book, by the way.
Oh, I had not. I was blind
toned
to all of it.
They toned down how bad Bella is to everybody around her in the movie.
What the
fuck? Which is rough considering what I've watched this week.
No kid, this is
Just
Warren,
as a
this
heads
is
up.
abuse central for everyone. Everyone.
Okay, but basically the vampires are X-Men, and they each have their own individual ability. But some of them have the same ability because
we're tired.
Whatever. So like Edward
It's a
can read
Friday night,
minds.
and she wants to, and
Yeah,
Twilight Rider wants to go out and like
I need to leave.
enjoy.
I don't have time for this. Yeah, but Edward can run fast, I guess, and read minds, or all vampires can run fast.
All of them can run fast. They're all really fast, really strong, and sparkle.
Okay, but Edward can read minds. Alice can see the future,
kind of
selectively, Deus Ex Machina style, when it's relevant to the plot.
She can read plot relevant future in the appropriate ways that will make a plot happen at some point, because the plot still hasn't happened after we've been 3 movies through.
The doctor who is playing Edward's quote unquote dad, who isn't, has the power to. He went to medical school.
He doesn't. Yeah, they don't explain his power. There's a lot of them they just don't list powers for, or
and
get into it. I don't know if they don't have them or if they're just not relevant or what, but they just don't get into it for most of them.
There's creepy nun who can cause physical pain by just staring at you.
Yep,
aka
seems
the
a little
Karen.
OP.
Karen
oh god,
stare.
she's super Karen. Holy fuck.
And then there's Bella, who is immune to all vampire powers because...
Who knows? We spent 3 movies on it.
Nothing happened, and nobody
has even tried to explain it or look into it, or nobody's even explained that. Nobody's even gone like, oh, she's special because of it, really. Like, they just kind of... They go like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway...
Yeah, and then they just send her off after they know, whatever.
Like, the evil vampires find this out, see her, talk to her, test all of their powers on her, and when they find out they don't work, he's like, wow, that's really interesting. Well, anyways, I was going to kill you and turn you to our side, but now I won't, because you're super important, and I don't think it's important anymore to turn you. I don't know. See you later, bye. And you're like, wait,
have a good vacation.
Like, you were, have fun storming the castle, kids. Like,
what?
Like, it's just like, wait, but isn't she more important now? And it's like, yes. Okay, should you do something about that? No.
That sounds like effort.
Yeah.
But, so the first 3 movies are basically junior year... it's sophomore year, junior year, senior year, if you look at high school in the United States. I think that's what it is, because it's 1 year of high school each year, and the 3rd movie is the graduation film.
Sure, yeah.
So they're trying to split that up into a year of high school. But time doesn't mean anything in this movie, so I don't know. So for the first movie, I would consider that the sophomore movie, or like the welcome to the new town. In a hero's journey, like in the movie Wolves, this would be where the hero leaves their familiar town and goes to a new town where they learn about all the new stuff and then become a hero. But this movie doesn't have a hero's journey because Bella doesn't go through any fucking change at all, ever.
No matter how much she wants to, because I want to be a vampire and no one will make me a vampire.
God,
She
this
wants
movie
to
is
change
like
so bad and no one will let her. Why won't you let me, Edward? I just want to
the
be a
series
vampire.
has so much moping. So much moping. The second movie I consider the depression movie. My cat is meowing. The depression movie is the second movie.
Yes.
And then the third movie is the graduation/marriage movie.
So the other thing I'd say about movie 1 and movie 2 is that they're the same fucking movie, but just done angstier the second time. Because
I'd say the third movie's the same even.
kind of okay, but the first movie is
Yeah.
we're gonna really light brush touch over these a bit. First movie, she goes from California, I think, or
Florida.
was it Florida? I thought because they moved to Florida later. I thought that she went from California there first, and then they were traveling, and then she was.
Oh no, sorry,
Phoenix. It was Phoenix.
It was Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Phoenix, Arizona. So she was from Phoenix, big city. Anyways, she was like in a bigger city. And then her mom and the new husband are moving around because he's a baseball guy. She doesn't want to move around, so she goes to new city in Forks, which is a very small town, and she's got to make a new life. She meets a weird guy. Weird guy is super creepy to her, which means that he's super hot, I guess. And so then she tries to track him down, finds out he's a vampire, and he just like it gets her wrapped up into all of this like vampire politics stuff.
Sure.
Movie 2 is he breaks up with her and leaves, so she finds a different person who is weird and creepy to her and changes her whole perspective again, where she's like again at a low point and then immediately gets rescued by a guy, and then she spends that whole movie learning about his dark secret because he also has a dark secret. And then as the dark secret slowly comes out, she gets involved in the world of the politics of this dark world, which is actually about werewolves, and you're like, oh my God, it's the same fucking movie. It's like the whole, but now it's Jacob instead of Edward.
Yeah.
So there's 2 movies of setup, and then the third movie feels like where it gets to where it's going, which is apparently the most abusive triangle relationship where she wants both of them and neither of them are okay with that. And she's just like, but guys, I get everything I want. Let me have what I want, which is everything.
Bella is the most selfish, just awful person ever portrayed on film. I don't understand.
I mean, okay, she is really bad, but she is not as bad as either of the men that she wants to date, is the amazing thing. Like, here's the thing. Bella is a gigantic piece of shit, and the 2 people that she wants to date in this are worse somehow. Like, they found the only 2 worst people on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean...
they're worse, but there are worse characters that they introduce in the series as well than those 2 that she's interested in.
Sure. Yeah, I guess, but I'm just
like they set the bar so low, you wouldn't think they could go lower. And they
Bella's
do.
Like Bella's one of the best characters in Twilight and one of the worst characters that I've ever seen anywhere else. Is what it is.
This, to be fair, like I think the main character of the series should be Alice, because that's actually a good character. and
Alice
and enjoyable to watch.
So she's nice and kind, and she talks to people, and she seems bright and sunny, and she smiles. Like, goddamn. It's like she's like a human being, and
like a human being, and not.
Sorry,
not,
she's a vampire, but also
not a author. Insert. like Bella. God, yeah.
I don't know how much. Yeah,
I think Bella is an author insert. It has to be, right? Like, so
to a certain extent.
Like when you're writing a character, especially for young adult fiction, which I don't know if Twilight was intended to be young adult when it was written, by the way. But
I doubt it.
If you're doing an author's insert, you want your main character to be sort of blank so that somebody could imprint themselves on that character.
Sure.
Right? In a way. So like maybe that's what they were going for with Bella.
Well, that's what I
but-
was gonna say. I think that in some ways she is, but she is in the way, and this is the part where I wanted to be fair to this film and
Yeah.
the series as a whole, in that this is a very stupid film, but some of the ways that a lot of people criticize it for being stupid are that it is romantic and it's making these guys hot and stuff like that, and it's like, no, it's pretty effective at some of that stuff, and it's a power fantasy in that way, in that, like, oh, you can just date both guys and get what you want. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
hey, it's not like there aren't enough power fantasies of like extreme violence and so, like, whatever, let them have some fun with it. So in that way, I always felt like she was kind of author insert, in that she gets whatever she wants because she's an insert for the audience. Like, hey, I mean, do you like both these guys? They both hot? It's like, yeah, they're pretty. They're
Yeah.
shirtless a whole lot.
Doesn't he own a shirt?
Hey, what if you could have both of them?
Oh,
Like, it's
Like,
like, oh
yeah.
boy, oh, what if
I
they were
think
both fawning
that
all
stuff-
over you?
that stuff is fun, like author insert, reader insert, sure.
Yeah.
But then you get scenes where like Bella's talking to
Yes.
Jacob, who's a werewolf,
Mhm.
and they're hitting it off, and then she's like, "Oh, wow, we're so mature. You're like the 36-year-old in this relationship, and I'm like the 38-year-old."
Yeah.
And she's 18, and why is she talking like this? And she's so obsessed with her age and that she's old and she's never gonna amount to anything. Like the author
Well,
was
that-
like 29
yeah.
or 30 when I think that's when the movie came out. I don't know if that's even when the book came out, but like it was around that like midlife, like starting the midlife
Sure.
crisis type of thing, or like, oh god, I went through my 20s and now what am I gonna do? I'm so old, like, and all of that's
Yeah.
in Bella, but she's 18
Yes.
or
Yeah,
16
there
in some
is-
cases, like in the early movies.
There is some she's extremely into mortality and death, and she's so absolutely terrified of her own mortality at every moment. And it really, the whole second movie, actually I should give some backstory about how
Yeah.
I viewed these. I went into the Twilight Zone, which was me sitting down, popping on a VR helmet for 6.5 hours and powering through all 3 movies in a row. I did have a break eventually between the second and third ones to do stream stuff with you, but then I went back immediately to the VR zone, that was a real weird pop out into reality and then back in, let me tell you. Oh, but
the worst part is like you can't escape it. It's on your face.
no, it's just
Everywhere
around
look.
you. It's everywhere.
Oh Jesus.
It's honestly, I will say that it was the best Twilight viewing experience that I could get. I knew that I needed to like shut everything off. This was me taking a page out of our sometimes guest Ty Tuesday's playbook, because it's easy to get distracted when you're watching a really bad movie like this that you super don't want to watch, and just like, I'm just going to pop up some Twitter or something and just kind of do other things really quickly. And I was like,
I was
nope,
multitasking a lot, so
exactly. I'm like, no. I'm this thing's strapped to my face. I've got water. I'm ready to go. This is all I'm into. But I don't know. So like halfway through the second movie, like the whole time I remember with the helmet on, people watching me in my Discord and everything while I was watching these, just over and over going, someone get this woman therapy. Like, get her some therapy. Why is no one getting her therapy? Because to clarify, so the first movie is she meets Edward. Edward treats her like absolute fucking trash, to the point where he's like sniffing, and then he's like puts on this disgusted face and like holds his nose at her, and he's like, oh god, and he like runs out of the room to like vomit, she thinks, and it's because he's actually so attracted to her because he wants so bad to beat her.
he's
Eat
so
her
hot
blood.
and he loves her. Yeah, I know. It's
But
like, Jesus Christ.
yeah, but like he's treating her like that, and she's just inextricably drawn to that. And then eventually him like dumping her, and when he dumps her, she spends 3 months, 4 months, something like it shows many months pass. I think it's about
Yeah.
4.
Just staring out
And
a window, right? That's all she does.
All she
Yeah.
does is stare out a window, and at night she gets screaming night terrors where her father has to like stay with her all evening as she screams at the top of her lungs, and he has to like keep going up there and comforting her and hugging her, and I'm like, get her to therapy. Like for 4 months he does this. He goes up like every night and comforts her multiple times to try and get her slowly to go to sleep and stop having like scream fits because her boyfriend broke up with her. And nowhere does anybody go like, maybe she needs some help. Like in the middle of I think it might even be the third movie, she has her birthday and her dad jokingly is like, oh, ha, ha, yeah, you're getting so old. I think I see your gray hair. And like touches that thing in her hair. And she runs to the mirror, like crying and screaming, going like, where? Oh my God, I'm so young. I don't want to die. And you're like,
And again, she's
holy
like
shit.
18.
Someone help her. Someone. I mean, these
Yeah.
are pleas for help, right?
That
this
too,
is
but
this is
man.
someone crying desperately for help, and no one helps her. The only person that does, which is for a long time why I was on his team, is that the start of the second movie, I think that's why they do that too. Edward breaks up with her because he's like, well, actually, this is best. It's so dangerous for you to be in my vampire world that he breaks up with her. And then Jacob comes along, who is the other love interest, the werewolf. And he is good to her at first, where he's like, hey, why don't you come out and like, what do you want to do? And he just hangs out with her and talks to her like she's a normal person, and they do things like make motorbikes together and chill out, and he's like, hey, you want to listen to some music? And they talk about their music choices, and I'm like, holy shit, it's like half of a real relationship. Like they're talking about things that aren't death and horror and all this shit, and they're actually enjoying each other's company and having fun. And then he gets dumped by her because he's not interested enough. And also he then has to kiss her against her will to force her to admit that she loves him, which she says that he had to do because she's like, oh yeah, it's good that you admitted that I made me admit that I love you by assaulting me. So everybody's a piece of shit.
Jacob's supposed to be like 17 or 18. He's younger.
He's
than Bella.
He's younger. When she's
so he's like 16
I think that
or
when
17
she was 18
or something.
He was 16, I think.
But that means that he went through puberty really late, because that's when he turned into a werewolf. And the moment he went through puberty is when he started being an absolute motherfucker.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So it's just like, are they trying to say something? Or is that just the writer being a hack? Like, what does that mean?
It's just a hack. That's just a hack.
Oh man. But yeah, so like, as we all know, we're both guys. Right?
Yeah.
So after you go through puberty, you take off your shirt, you put on some shorts, and you run barefoot through the forest with all your bros, and then you jump in the tub.
Well, if you're good, you generally get like, well, I mean, you got to wash the blood off from when you grabbed a rabbit and you like had a little meal out.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, we've all done that.
Like you gotta. And you share with your bros if you can. Maybe do a little wrestling. I like wrestling.
And then,
in the woods,
and then because you're like
good.
Naked wrestling in the woods, you don't have any time for girls or relationships.
God, no. Who would want to do that?
Yeah, like me, a manly guy, naked wrestling with my bros. No.
I wouldn't want
no time.
No time for women if I'm doing that.
Like, what was that? If this is supposed to be a hetero movie, what was that?
Well, I mean,
right?
I think that's something that's, again, like I think that a lot of it is they're trying to like speak to specific things that some women like to see in men, and like.
I guess
honestly,
fair, but,
having like a healthy, like, I mean, imagine like, hey, if you see a movie with a bunch of girls mud wrestling Do you have any idea of what? Oh man, this movie is supposed to be a straight movie. It's supposed to be for guys to watch. I don't understand why it has this.
I guess, but then like
It's
the
that,
girls
it's
don't
that.
go running through the forest later and then frolicking in a field, like
No, but they want them to be dark
You know,
and brooding. It's like
yeah.
I'm fine with that. Like there's some things like that. And honestly, I think that them frolicking in the woods and stuff was like, besides him just being an absolute shithead out of nowhere for that.
Correct.
Like this
yeah.
movie,
His
this
whole
movie makes the
his whole
characters
personality
change.
changes. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is this movie series, because this is across a bunch of the movies. This whole little plot line happens. Characters change their personalities not on what happens in the movies, because nothing really happens most of the time. Most of this movie is longing looks at each other and melancholy music in the rain, with the guy shirtless if possible.
Doesn't he own a shirt?
The idea of what it is, like, so, oh my god, where was I going with this? I got shirtless men in my head and it immediately just threw everything else out.
It's all gone.
Hey, listen, Taylor Lautner's got those pecs that are tearing this relationship apart, Boyks. You don't understand. But the for what little plot, characters. So the way characters' motivations work in this movie, they just go with where it's plot convenient. So, like, the idea is you always know that she's going to end up back with Edward. And so, like, the first movie, he's like, I'll never be apart from you, Bella. Like, no matter what, I will always be with you. And then he immediately changes his mind 5 minutes later.
I'm leaving and never
so that
coming
he can
back.
leave. Yeah, exactly. What? Like, he immediately changes his mind so that he's never coming back. That's at the end of the first movie, actually. It's not even...
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, why? And it's like, well, because then we have tension for afterwards where she has to get him back. And then Jacob is super nice. He just gets super moody and nasty and just fucking force you to love me, all this weird shit, and jealous. And why? Well, because Edward came back, so he has to be unlikable now, so there's an excuse for Bella to go back to Edward. Like, they basically have to make it so, because Edward has been so awful to her, there's now this, like, oh god, we have this problem of she's got this new boyfriend who built motorbikes with her all summer and treated her really nicely and said, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here, I'll be your friend. I'll support you, whatever you need. Just let me know, and we'll get through this together. And was really nice and supportive. So why the fuck would she go back to Edward? And the answer is, make him an unlikable jackass out of nowhere, which happens, and then she fucking leaves him, because, yeah.
Yeah, and he, like, constantly forces himself on her. He thinks she's lying about everything. Yeah. And, like, it's all this awful abuse shit. And then, like... Man, Edward's not better in any way. They're both abusive fucks. It sucks.
Yep. But the whole time, this was the funniest thing to me, is that during all of this, so the relationship with Edward and Bella, she's constantly going like, well, no, I have to choose Edward. He's the one for me. And he's like, oh, is it only because you love me? And she's like, yes, Edward, it's because I love you more than I love Jacob. It's because I love you more than I love Jacob. But the whole time, also, the main plot is that she is going to be made into a vampire. And she desperately wants that. Because she's so afraid of dying.
Well, she's so afraid of dying, and it's her fetish.
Yes.
So every single time she's talking to Edward, she's like, Edward, it's my fetish that you turn me into a vampire. Please,
I know you'd stop. I know you'd let me be a vampire. Please. And he's like, well, it'll kill your soul. And she's like, I don't believe in that shit. That's weird.
Yeah, and Edward's like, I've killed people before. I don't want to kill you. And she's like, oh, that's so hot.
I'm designed to kill.
I don't care.
I've killed people before.
It does not matter.
Yeah,
no.
She's edging herself on wanting to be a vampire.
Definitely her fetish. So that's important.
But she wants it so bad. She's constantly like, make me immortal. And like to the point where Edward's like, well, I won't do it kind of thing. And so she's like, well, I'm going to talk to the rest of your family then. So she's like basically breaking up with him to be like, all right, what hot, sexy vampire wants to get me? Like to all the rest of the family. Also, like she'd dump him in a second if somebody else would turn her into a vampire.
Yeah, the whole time Edward's like, I'm never going to turn you into a vampire. And she's like, well, let's just have your family vote then.
Yes. Like she is...
What?
She hates that he won't do it. And that's the only reason that she's with him. And he calls it because like, he's like, well, what do you love about me? And she's like, there's nothing. There's never any connection with these characters where they talk about things that they enjoy. The only thing that she enjoys and wants is immortality, which, hey, I get that. Fuck yeah, you put immortality on the table, baby. Hey, I get it. But it's so funny when it culminates finally at near the end of the third movie. She like has to make her choice between them kind of thing. And she's like, you know, like, Edward, I'd always choose you. And he's like, oh, that's also because you're going to become a vampire if you pick me, right? And she's like, yeah, I really do want to be a vampire. And he goes like, so it's not just me. And she's like, no, not really. Even though for 2 whole movies, the whole thing has been, he's like, she's like, it's not anything else, right? You only want me. And she's like, yeah, no, I only want you. It has nothing to do with wanting to be immortal. And then finally, like, I wrote it down. I had to take off the VR headset and like quickly write down like, yeah, 323. She admitted. She just admitted. It's just the meme. She just suddenly is like, no. Actually, I do kind of just want to be immortal. It's really, it'd be really nice. Like, hey, you know what? At least she's being honest finally. But like, that's the whole fucking thing. There's no relationship. She just wants to be immortal. So she is using both of these men. She's using Jacob because she just wants to fuck him. And she's using Edward because she wants to be immortal. And other than that, like, she doesn't give a shit about him or anybody. She treats her dad so bad.
She treats her dad very badly. I will point out, in the book, she treats him worse.
I can't imagine.
Worse. More lying, more yelling, more blaming. It's so much worse. Yeah, it's surprising like how much they toned down that stuff for the movie.
Oh my God.
So much toning down.
That's like terrifying.
It's so bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of the Edward Jacob stuff, there's a side plot about a vampire that wants to kill Bella called Victoria.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this whole fucking plot is real thin, by the way. It's real thin. But more importantly, I want to ask you about, we meet Victoria at the baseball game. What did you think about the baseball game?
I loved it. I thought that was cool. This is actually a good thing that I think is fun about Twilight that I will unironically go to bat for.
Because they're vampires. They turn into bats.
They turn into bats. Yeah. But I thought that was a lot of fun. What happens is there's a thunderstorm and he's like, oh my God, we're going to play baseball. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's a thunderstorm. He's like, it's the only time we get to play. She's like, what? And he's like, you'll see. So he takes her out to this field and they hit the ball so hard that it sounds like lightning strikes because they're all X-Men and they're super strong and super fast. So they're having like this extra super powered baseball game where they're like hitting home runs that are, 1,000-mile-per-hour fastballs and all this bullshit. And it sounds like thunder cracks when they hit the baseball. I thought that was great. I thought that was fun.
It's just out of nowhere, though. It's so...
It is.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
But, like, honestly, if this movie had way more of that, of fun, cool reasons why she would want to be with this family and with these vampires, like that, honestly, that scene and them having fun and it being like them all being super powered and just having fun with it, is a selling point for her to want to be with him and with that family. And there is almost none of that throughout most of this movie and these 3 movies. So that they have anything like that is a godsend. Like, I thought that scene was fantastic because it sets up why she'd like these people. It sets up why she'd want to be friends with them. It sets them up as likable people that enjoy each other's company and are like having fun together. Because before this, it's all just fucking mopey shit. So it's nice that, like, yeah, it's weird that it comes out of nowhere. But honestly, if this was a much better movie, there would be way more of that kind of thing.
So that scene shows up 90 minutes into the first movie.
Yes.
Which I wrote down multiple times in that film. Is there a plot? Where's the plot? What is even happening? Why are we here? And then the baseball scene happens, and that's when they finally introduce
the inciting incident.
a plot to the film and conflict. There's conflict in this movie. And I remember when I was reading the book, I was also like, there's no fucking plot. It's just ogling for most of the book, and then baseball happens, and it's almost like Stephanie Meyer is like, oh fuck, I need to write a story, and then she threw this baseball thing in, like, to throw a curveball on the plot of what was happening, you know? Like, so seeing that in movie form again, I'm like, oh right, something happens in this film. And that's when they introduced Victoria. Victoria is a vampire who's a bad vampire. Because unlike the Cullen family, which are vegetarian, well, the vampire version of vegetarian, in that they don't drink human blood, they drink animal blood, which is vegetarian. All vegetarians just
drink animal blood. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah, it's very funny.
I'm a vegetarian and I have about 12 pints downstairs.
So she's dating this vampire who's an evil murderer, and there's another vampire with them who's just kind of hanging out. And they show up to the baseball game because they hear the thunder and the strikes, and they're like, "Hey, y'all playing baseball?" It's like, "Yeah, we're playing baseball." Oh, you need more players? Sure. Let's go play some games. Hey, Bella and Edward, go. We'll let you sit out so these 3 random strangers can play baseball. Yep.
Yeah.
And then one of them's like, is that a human? I have a super nose. That's my power. And he's known as the Tracker.
Yeah, so it turns out that those 3 are evil. Yes.
Yeah, they're evil. They don't want to play baseball at all.
They want to eat her. Oh, no.
So they end up, like, leaving, and that guy is now stalking Bella, which she's super into.
She is so into being stalked. Oh my god. I will talk about that afterward. Hey, listen. Okay, I have a tangent on that, but I can't get into it because it's a long tangent. So keep going.
So eventually he tricks her into going to her old ballet studio in Phoenix after she tries to run away, and the Cullens are trying to kill him. And then the Cullens show up and kill him after Bella got hurt a lot. And after that, in the second movie, the vampire that tipped them off, which was part of that group of 3, who was the other one,
Logan,
is evil now, even though he wasn't technically evil in the first movie, because he was nice to them and tipped them off and was like, hey, this vampire is trying to kill Bella.
Well, he was evil, but then he just decided to be good one time, and then he decided to be evil again. Characters' motivations.
He's a complicated character.
Characters' motivations align to the plot and not to actual, like, characterizations.
So that vampire dies, but he can telepathically tell Victoria about Bella and where they are, and that Edward's gone, so that Victoria can come get her or something.
Yes. Yeah, he got caught and killed by the werewolves, but he still somehow managed to tell Victoria, even though he never
died
saw
instantly.
her and got chased. Yes, he got chased down and killed immediately after seeing Bella, because Jacob and the werewolves get him.
So then Victoria comes back to Forks and is just running in the woods most of the movie. And after Bella jumps into the water to know what it feels like
to die,
or
be,
something.
She wants to do cliff diving because she's attention seeking, because she's suffered a lot of
Yeah.
abuse at the hands of all of these
But-
horrible people.
But the important thing is that Victoria also jumped in the water before her and is now Jaws.
Yes.
And they do
Yes.
a Jaws scene where her head like pops out of the water and is like looking at her. And then,
Yes.
Which is really
Yes.
funny to me. Yeah. And that movie ends with Victoria at their what is it? Prom? At their prom? I think. And she's
yeah.
just standing there like, "Hey, I'm gonna be back for the next film, everyone." and
yeah.
and then that whole next movie is all about Victoria going after her, basically. And we find out that Victoria has been going after Bella because the Cullens killed her boyfriend who was going after Bella, and she wants revenge on Edward by killing Bella. Or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
It's very
you killed my
confusing.
mates. You killed my mates, so I'll kill yours. I don't know. That's
It's like a revenge
pretty
thing,
basic.
I
Yep,
guess.
Yep.
But like that's the whole 3-movie plot about Victoria.
Yes. For all of movie 2, it's just her. They're like, oh, she keeps coming back, but we keep chasing her away. And that's literally all they do. Is that
That's it.
she every once in a while, you'll see her in the background, and then you'll immediately be like, oh my god, it's Victoria! And all of the vampires and or werewolves that are on the screen at the time go, let's get her! And they run after her, and she runs away, and then she escapes, and then it goes back to moping. And then there's nothing. And that's the entirety of movie 2.
Like,
they don't advance that plot
she doesn't
in
do
any
anything
way.
in movie
No,
2
she just
at
watches
all.
them. No, she just watches them.
They could have just cut her out of movie 2.
There's no real
Entirely.
plot in these series. It's just about her having relationships with the people.
Yeah,
like all the plot stuff is so superfluous.
It feels like if I was watching Spider-Man and then the Green Goblin showed up, and at the end of the film, he just kind of fucks off because he's not actually in this movie. He's in the next movie. Like, what?
Yeah, but that she does that for
Why?
3 movies.
Yeah, why?
That's 3 movies worth of that, because they even kill James before the end of movie 1, and they're like, oh, we've got to worry about Victoria, and she like shows up at the end.
Yeah, that whole James plot happens in like 15 minutes at the end of the film.
Yes,
The whole plot is condensed into 15 minutes.
Yes, yeah. All of the tension and stuff certainly is, and we have like. As much as it focuses on the part that's annoying to me is that as much as it focuses on all of the like romance and stuff, supposedly there's no actual character building between any of these people. Like you never get moments of why they would want to be together and like things they're enjoying with each other. Like a good example for that is Alice's character. So Alice can see the future in little brief Deus Ex Machina glimpses. And she says right away when she meets Bella, oh, it's okay, we're going to be really good friends. So they're destined to be friends is the idea. But at first, like, they don't get along at all. Like, they have a few clashes in the first movie. And they don't really do anything together. There's just, like, the big chase scene. Like, it's them clashing, then there's baseball, and then the chase scene is the rest of the film for that. And then the Cullens are like, oh no, we need to leave forever so that we can protect Bella, because if we're around, then she'll chase after Bella, and like Victoria will try and get Bella if Edward and us stay around.
Yeah.
And then in movie 2, she goes and she's like, oh my god, it's my bestie. I love you. It's so nice to see you, Bella. And you're like, wait, what? Like they just do that entire friendship off screen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go shopping. They don't like have a moment. They don't have like sit down and have like a real talk moment kind of thing. Like there's nothing like that to set up like why they like each other, why they're friends, what interests they have. None of that. There's absolutely nothing. It's all done entirely off screen where they're just, oh, well, they're friends now because, well, but she said they were going to be friends and she can see the future. So now they're friends. Duh. And you're like, no, but I want to see that. Like, that's the parts of the movie that would give you a connection to the characters and make them interesting and be involved in their lives. But it's just, there's nothing there. It's
It's weird.
God, that whole thing. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is that Alice, a note that I have here, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it means in my head, is Alice can see the future, but not all the Romeo and Juliet references. That is that, like,
There's so many Romeo and Juliet references.
in movie 2 specifically.
Yeah.
Alice can see the future, but then, like, somebody has to explain, like, hey, listen, you know this movie? It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet to her. It's so, oh my God. So they do this whole thing where in movie 2, and at first I thought I was like, oh, this is almost like a clever joke for half a second that they're invoking this, because they have one class at the beginning of it where they're in English and they're reading Romeo and Juliet. And it's very like, it's kind of like Edward and Bella, two people that can't be together. Do you get it? And I was like, okay, they're almost like parodying themselves because they're referencing it so hard. And I thought it was almost funny. And then they just kept going in on it later. Like 30 minutes later, they bring back more and they're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to be in the play of Romeo and Juliet. And like, this is like Romeo and Juliet. And hey, and I'm like Juliet and he's like Romeo. And then the whole movie is Edward going to kill himself because he's afraid that he can't live without Bella.
Oh no.
So,
like Romeo and Juliet. Do you get it?
Imagine.
Yeah.
So Romeo and Juliet, I think that Shakespeare is a fantastic writer, and I think that fantastic writers can make horrible mistakes. Romeo and Juliet is a lot of angsty teen, and like, I don't think that in some ways it's portrayed as a good thing. Like, I think that in some ways Romeo and Juliet are meant to be insufferable and is kind of a lesson of like early puppy love, and like that they're not necessarily in love, right? That whole idea of like, they're gonna kill each other or themselves like an hour after meeting kind of thing. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, they've barely known each other, right? That whole kind of thing in Romeo and Juliet. And imagine if you take out any amount of self-awareness of that side of things and any good writing, and you have this. Like, that's
Correct.
Like, oh my
I
God,
agree.
like, she's trying so hard to make this Romeo and Juliet, and it's like, oh, but Romeo and Juliet's not that good, and you're not Shakespeare.
It's
like,
real obvious.
We have inside of, so like, this is where it shapes around. This is my tangent that shapes back around. So like, you know, he talks about like, oh yeah, you know, in Romeo and Juliet, you have such wonderful monologues like, you know, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And then in Twilight, like in the first film, we have such romantic moments as Edward going,
I like watching you sleep.
I like watching you sleep.
but as creepy as possible. Yeah. Or you'll get like poetry like life is harder than dying.
yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, shut up.
They literally have it. So one of the things that attracts her to him is that he breaks into her home at night throughout the first movie to watch her sleep before she knows who he is or goes out with him or anything. Like,
And
he's
she's
just
super into that.
and she's like, wow, that's so cool. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
No,
thanks."
great.
Yeah. Yeah. So this movie,
Yeah.
that's what it considers to be really good, healthy relationships.
I mean,
It has some
yeah.
really unbelievably toxic shit in this. It is.
This
Oof.
movie also, not only does it have toxic relationships, it also like revives the magic Native American stereotype
Yeah, I was wondering
really
if we wanted
badly.
to talk
I just
about
want to
that.
point it out real quick.
Yeah.
The only werewolves in this movie are all Native Americans. They're all part of a tribe, and the reason they can turn into werewolves is because they have a gene from their tribe that allows them to do that.
They have magic powers. Yes.
They're magic Native Americans.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah,
and
they make
and
all
they
the
go
indigenous
hard
people
on
magical.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Which white woman writing
Mhm.
the story, you know, you know.
One of the most insufferable things about that for me was because I wanted to look at, okay, what exactly are, because I'm also white, you're white, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
I know, but
this is an actual tribe and they have a wolf origin story, and I'm like, I want to just know a little bit about the background of the casting and stuff and her
Mhm.
research to talk about that. So I did look a little bit about that, and I found some insufferable defenses of some of the stuff around it, which
yeah.
what well I agree with. So the thing is, I found an interview of people being like, well, see, look, here's even the director on an interview about how they made sure that they cast every single person that is a part of the pack is actually a member of the Colette tribe. I hope that I'm saying that right. I can't remember exactly. But they're a member of that actual tribe, and like that they, like, were consulted a little bit and talked about, and like they even got documentation from them to make sure of that, and so they cast them appropriately, and I'm like, that's great. So what the fuck is with Taylor Lautner being browned up as, like, because Taylor Lautner's fucking white. So then they got every background character. They were patting themselves on the back about being so good about casting and like, oh, making sure. And I'm like, this is worse. Do you guys understand that it's worse, that you understood that you needed to cast actual Indigenous people in an Indigenous role? And then you fucking threw it out the window for your lead because you went, well, but the lead's gotta be the hottest guy, and that's probably a white guy, right? And it's like, what the fuck, man? Because the lead isn't.
It's like making a Shaft movie where you make the main character in blackface. Like,
yes,
that's what it is. It's so
and then
bad.
And then you do an interview about how good you are by having everyone else who's black actually be done with black characters, and you're like, see, look at how good we are. Everyone else is black, and you're like, but
what the fuck?
You have the main character in fucking blackface. Like, it is that. It's that. And that was the part that I found insufferable. Like, that was just, so I think that I'm glad that they had the ability to, like, some of it, I think they show some parts of, like, the Indigenous stuff. They can be good about it, where I liked Graham Greene in it, for one thing. I feel so bad that Graham Greene's stuck in this fucking movie. There's some good acting moments from him, and man, he shouldn't act for this movie. He needs better roles than this. But like, it's nice to see some of these actors and some of them getting roles, but at the same time, like, it needs to be better roles than this. It needs to be better than this. This was insulting for all those people, and I felt bad for it. I don't know. It just sucked. They do a moment in the first movie, even, that I remember, where she has to go and she, like, goes to a bookstore to research about vampires. But the bookstore that she goes to the reservation bookstore because it's about, they have legends of the blood drinkers. Oh God. And all this
right,
stuff.
because the reservation bookstore would have all their local legends in leather bound books written in ink from a like, no, come on, no.
Well, and when she, like, steps into the store, they immediately start having, like, drums and stuff going. Like, they every time she goes to the reservation in the first movie, they start, like, putting in a little bit of background music that's just, like, a little bit of, like, Indigenous music and stuff to be like, oh, do you know where she is? Do you get it? And it's like, holy shit, like, yeah, you don't need to do that. Like, it's
frustrating too, because do you remember how she learned about vampires? She went to WebMD and fucking looked up vampire.
Yes, and that book.
She Googled
it. Yeah, she was looking through that book, and then she looked at that.
So why did she need to do all this for the other side? Like,
I don't know.
She couldn't figure out what the first movie.
She couldn't figure out what vampire was. She didn't know what a vampire was until she looked it up. Yeah, it was.
It's like, I looked up all your symptoms on WebMD, Edward. I know what you are.
Yeah.
You're anemic. Like, what do you want from me? But she has to go through this fucking journey of exploration and appropriating culture. Like, god damn it.
One thing I want to say really quickly about the vampire stuff is the vampire makeup to me in this movie is amazing. I love it.
It
They
is,
look
yeah.
like because they look like fucking clowns. They look
They
like they have
do.
clown
They
makeup on
do.
at all
It's great.
times. Like they basically, so what they do is they give a base layer of white makeup to all of the characters to make them paler, but it's obviously like white grease paint makeup. They look like they're
Mhm.
clowns because like that's a clown makeup. Like so they all look vaguely clown-like, or like they're like mimes or something. Like they all look like they're about to go on like a stage production as mimes, and it's so fucking funny to me. Like it's so funny. They look so ridiculous. It's really good. I actually enjoyed that part. I thought it was
kind of
really
reminds me
funny.
of the vampires in Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think it was.
Sure.
Is that the one with oh god, Keanu? Or am I thinking of a different one?
I think that is. I think that.
Yeah, because the vampires
Keanu.
in that movie all look ridiculous too, and they're very pale, and it's funny. But it's supposed to be serious here, and it was supposed to be funny there.
Yes, yeah.
So that's the problem.
They do a lot of unintentional humor in these that
Yeah.
I think is very funny. Like one of the things is, so early on too, they're in this small town and they're going to high school. Like there's so many just like little things to nitpick that I found really, really
Yeah.
funny. And they're going to this small town of Forks, and when you described Forks, because you've been there, like
Mhm.
it's this small logging community, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
you're saying like
it's-
now
it's
it's the
basically
Twilight
just-
Mecca on the one side, and the other side is
so
this Twilight, this logging.
You can envision Forks is right outside of the mountains and the national rainforest on the
Mhm.
western side, right between the coast and the forest. And
Yeah.
it is the largest town in that area for about 500 miles.
Yeah, and it's and that's 3,000. It's the largest town for about 500 miles.
Maybe not 500, like
Well, but like for a
200 or
while,
300, hundreds of
like,
miles.
you'd have to drive like
It's
an hour or
huge.
two at least to get somewhere.
It's
Okay.
huge, and I think it probably only has like, I don't know. I'd have to look it up on Wikipedia.
It
but it's a
said
small
3,000
town.
some people. I remember
It's a
that, because
small population. Yeah,
I remember that they said it was like 3,500 or so, 35 or 3,800. I remember the numbers because I grew up in small towns like this and around small towns like this in the mountains. That's where my wife came from also. And oh my god, this is the most inaccurate small town I've ever fucking seen. It is incredible. The Cullens come in and they're all driving Porsches and Hummers and like Mazda Miatas, and like a bunch of the other high school kids are too. And she drives up in this like beat up like 50s style Ford truck that they like rebuilt the engine on. And they all make fun of her for having this shitty car. And I'm like,
that's everybody.
It's a town of 3,000 people. Nobody has a new car. No one has a new car. And they're all in high school, and they're all wearing like, all of the Cullens are always wearing like wool jackets and suits and like ties and like ascots and like all these different like really high fashion things. And they go into their small town high school where they have like this huge bio lab and this gigantic cafeteria that's all big, wide open, like windows and metal. And like they have like a big buffet line in their cafeteria. And I'm like, what small town of 3,000 people has a high school with 1,000 some students? And like
it's a huge high school,
and it's like this and sparkling
it's like 4
clean.
floors too. Yeah,
like 4 floors, sparkling clean, high tech. Everybody's driving really nice cars. I'm like, this is the most wild shit to me, and they're all way too old. Everybody is 35 years old in this high school.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So that high school is a Washington high school, but it is not in Forks. I did look that up. It is a Washington high school though, but it is not from that town.
No, there's no way it is.
So anybody that was planning on taking a Mecca to Forks, you will not see that high school there.
No shit. Yeah, like it's the most obvious thing they couldn't have that place.
Yeah, that place it's very, very forest mountain town. It's very small. Maybe a convenience store or two. I don't even think you can get gas. There's no hotels. There's nothing big. Nothing more than 2-story at most.
But they constantly portray it like they talk about it being a small town, but yet every time they go out, they're like, "Oh, let's go out for dinner," and they go out to like these really nice, fancy
like
restaurants,
a fancy restaurant,
and,
like a city,
and you see all and you see the down they're showing them like, "Oh, let's go shopping downtown." They have like a dress store, and they're out shopping. There's all these people walking by, and you're like, "This is like downtown Seattle. This isn't fucking small town, mountain town." Like, no, small mountain town is we have 3 bars where all of the loggers and truckers that drive the logs and stuff drink, and they're all like these seedy, messed up bars that are run down, like the buildings are from the 70s, and then like a bunch of rundown fences, broken down quads in people's yards, like
and one of the bars is cut in half, and the other half is the church,
and or the library.
Yeah, no, that's how small towns work. I know. I've been in quite a few small towns,
and it's just, but like these movies, they operate in this total alternate universe, this Twilight Zone,
some sort of a Twilight Zone. Yeah,
God, it's wild how much all that stuff, like it is big city living, like looking at small towns, and they just have no idea what anybody is like in these places.
One other thing that upset me: why is Alice's boyfriend a Confederate soldier?
Holy fuck! Yeah,
they could have just made him Union. There's no reason to make him a Confederate soldier. The hero of the hero military man of the Cullens is a Confederate and an officer.
And the way that they like, and that
was like, oh, that's so interesting. I think I like you now.
Yes, and it's portrayed also as like a good and life-saving thing for them, where they're like,
yes,
oh well, we don't like violence and stuff. We're not the types to do that, but Jasper here, oh boy, Jasper can probably save us because he was a brave Confederate soldier. And you're like, wait, what? Like, because
why?
Yeah, they go on about his battle experience and why that makes him so good and how that's going to save all of them. And they just really butter him up as being this good military guy because he was a good.
Like, if this took place in Georgia, maybe. It's fucking Washington.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Georgia or not.
You know what I mean, though? Like, I could see where they had the thought process, at least, if it was Georgia. Somewhere in the South.
Yeah.
But there's no explanation. It's just, we think Confederates are cool.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, this whole series, so the first 2 movies I find bland and not my thing, but it's a lot of just like longing looks at each other and, oh man, will they, won't they kind of tension. Mm-hmm. That's the vast majority of the first 2 movies. And it's not particularly well done, I don't think, but it's not like the worst offensive kind of stuff that I've seen. And like some of the stuff is abusive, but it's like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, it's problematic, but like, whatever. Just if people want to enjoy this thing, like, I'm not going to like get into it. And that's why I've avoided Twilight for so long. But the third movie takes some fucking hard right turns and I do mean hard right turns in a lot of ways, where all of a sudden like major plot points come up about, I wouldn't want to destroy your virtue and stuff like that, where Edward can't fuck her the way that she wants to, because
they get into Edward's boner in that movie. Yeah,
he can't do it unless they get married because he's got to protect her virtue, and you know, she doesn't care about it, but it's deeply important to him because he's a good guy and he knows that it's going to matter to her long term. And I wouldn't want you to have an abortion and all. Like, they just get into all this fucking shit out of nowhere.
They hinted at that pretty heavily in the second movie, though, because as they're going on a flight, everybody in this movie flies Virgin.
God damn it, Boyks. God damn you.
So you can't say it was just out of nowhere. I mean,
I honestly, but like looking at this as a like person trying to put myself in the feet of somebody who watched the first two movies and liked them or something, right? Like if I was a fan of the first two movies because I was like, ooh, it's kind of hot, will they, won't they type stuff, I'd have been fucking pissed about the way that it went in the third. Like I'd have been so mad. I'd have been so fucking pissed off because they just, everybody ends up doubling like and tripling down and quadrupling down on how toxic they are, because that's where you get into the whole like Jacob, I have to force you to love me and all of that, and you get into like Jacob just wants her to be free to do what she wants, and Edward's like, no, I want you to be like a good woman, the way that people aren't anymore. Like back when in 1918, when I grew up, when things weren't complicated like they are
back
now.
in the old days when it was all the whites on one side.
Oh,
Like, wait, what the
like
fuck, Edward?
They
what
go
the
so
fuck?
fucking hard into all of that.
Yeah.
And then, like, the Confederate soldier thing comes up in movie 3.
Yeah, what?
And it just goes hard right into, like, super... Everybody in the Cullens now is suddenly, like, very racist and conservative. They all want to make sure that she gets married before she has sex, when things were simpler and you didn't have all these weird relationships and stuff like that. And she goes like, oh, well, how would you feel about, you know, if I loved more than one person kind of thing? And it's like, marriage is between a man and a woman. Like, that's his response, basically. And it's like, oh my God.
Nobody in this
like,
film cares about each other's wants or desires or opinions, or they're all trying to force each other onto their own viewpoints of the world.
Sure. But then also, like, the author herself, like, you really feel like Stephanie Meyer's 100% of other people and their relationships and what marriages and stuff comes really hard out into the third one.
But by the third book, the third movie, she started opening up about what her actual goals were with this and preaching, and it's bad.
It gets really preachy and in some really disgusting ways.
Okay, one other thing before we get to some funny stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of murder in these movies.
There's a lot of murder. It was pretty cool. That part's neat.
Yeah, I kept a murder count. It's an escalating amount of murder.
Yes,
by the way, and I think it's on a logarithmic scale.
Oh,
so that questions a lot what happened in the last two. But okay, so the first movie.
This is why I want to see the last two.
Yeah, the first movie is 3 murders. A nice, safe, very low key 3 murders. Okay.
Yes.
Second movie, 48. 48 murders.
Well, it starts out, the beginning of the movie is the dad coming in and being like, well, that's the 5th murder this week. And you're like, wait, what? Like, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a bear mauling people in the woods. And that's like the start of it, is there's been 5 fucking killings in like the last week.
Yeah, I'm counting vampires
town
as murder, by the way, because like the humans wouldn't know. They would see a body and it's murder. It's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
So 5 hikers, 2 vampires. I don't know, like 40 tourists and a receptionist. That's the second movie. Okay, so the third movie has...
Can I just want to interrupt for a very brief tangent about, there was one scene that this reminded me of that I thought was absolutely hilarious. That is, in movie 1, when they captured James, the bad vampire, and they had talked about how they needed to stop him by dismembering and then burning him.
Correct.
Edward is like, gets the upper hand and starts to win the fight and is maybe going to kill James, kind of thing. Like, it looks like he's going to like rip his throat out or something. And the dad comes over and goes like, Edward, no, that's enough. You don't let yourself go. And then he's like, okay, I'm back. It's fine. It's like, yeah, don't give in to the violence. And then immediately he's like, all right, everybody else do it. And they grab the guy, pull his arms out, rip his head off, and burn him in front of everybody. And I'm like, wait, so why did you need to...
I don't... Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
So it was so fucking funny to me that it's like, whoa. No need to get violent here. All right, dismember and burn him.
Yeah, we don't need to get violent. Let's just dismember him. What's the big deal?
It's like, don't give in to hate. Don't give in to violence. Anyways,
the
let's
movie,
dismember him.
They show like 20 people dying on screen in Seattle.
Yes.
They imply 10 more people died before that point in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They have 30 vampires of a vampire army die.
Yep.
And then there were also the two main villain vampires that died.
Yes.
So it's like 62, I think was my count.
There's a lot
There's
in
so
book
much
3.
murder in these movies.
I couldn't imagine trying to keep track of all the death in book.
What
I keep saying book, but movie 3.
Yeah, but like,
it's
like a vampire werewolf romance movie. I wasn't expecting so much killing. You know, like
the funny thing about it is how shoehorned in it is.
it just
because
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does just happen. Like it's not the important part of the movie. The important part of the films are all of the like will they, won't they sexual tension
Mhm.
between the characters. It's not at all the vampire army shit like that. You can tell that's not where the passion of this movie is.
Mhm.
So it's really, really funny how much casual murder there's going on in the background, because it is totally in the background. Like so many of the murders are like I said, are your body count. I bet that you can probably back me up on this. So much of it is just like him coming in as the cop who's her dad. He's the chief of this town. Comes in and he goes, "Oh man, it was a bad scene. 12 more people died today. Anyway,"
it's like,
and he just
what?
hangs his head up, and then they just keep doing things, and you're like, "Wait, what?" Like,
it's a small town. 3 murders is like once in 100 years.
Bloodbath, yeah, like
it's a bloodbath.
Yes.
And then the next movie, it's like I don't know, fucking 50. Who cares? Whatever. And then it just keeps going. Like Stephanie's just like, well, I already killed 3 people. Let's just fucking why not? Yeah.
Yeah, the small town where my wife grew up actually had like a few bad years a little while back where they had like a murder / kidnapping once a year for like 2 or 3 years. And they had like apocalypse headlines the whole time. Like, and that's like 1 a year. They were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we had a 1 a year every year, like year for 3 years. It was fucked up." And then like they have like 150 people die.
Nobody in the town seems to react or care. And
No.
the main characters are just like, well, time to go searching for that killer again, I guess. No, well, the coffee's kind of cold though. I think I'll do it later. Like, what the fuck?
They're very blasé about it. Yeah.
Man, okay. Funny stuff. Apparently, when vampires bite you, they inject venom like a snake, and you could just suck it back out.
Okay, yeah. I thought this was really funny to me because I ended up, when I first started watching these, I pulled up all 3 movies and put them into a playlist, and I screwed it up and actually had the 3rd movie as the first one when I started, which opens with a guy being chased down the streets of Seattle, and then he gets a small bite on his hand, which has him the minute he gets a small bite on his hand, he falls to the ground screaming and writhing in agony. And I'm like, he has like 2 puncture marks on his hand. It's like little baby owie. But it's because the vampire venom is supposed to hurt you real bad.
Yeah.
So
it hurts or something.
I was totally lost. And as it turns out, like these movies, you do have to watch them in order. There is you'd be so fucking lost if you went halfway through in any of these. Like, no way. They don't do any onboarding for new people.
When you get bit by a vampire, you don't turn into a vampire. You die from the pain of the poison, the venom.
Yes.
But if the vampire sucks it back out, then it's fine.
Or somebody
and
does.
that's when you can turn into a vampire. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Edward has to suck the venom out of Bella to make sure that she doesn't turn into a vampire. You know, the only thing that she wants throughout all of these movies. And he has to make sure that he denies it to her, if possible.
Yeah, he doesn't give it to her. That's important. The next thing I wanted to say, the 2 things that Bella finds really hot about Edward and Jacob. Edward is cold like a corpse, which he thinks is hot as hell. And Jacob is extremely warm to the point of being able to cure hypothermia by touching his abs, which she thinks is extremely hot.
It is hot, definitionally.
So one of them gives her hypothermia, the other one cures it. If she's just sandwiched between them, it's like the perfect temperature. It's like a Hot Pocket.
No, then you'd have to have Edward in the middle, though, which I'm sure there's some fanfic of if we want. You got to have the cold in the middle.
Yeah.
As a real quick aside to your thing about the coldness, early on in the first movie, she does actually say God, they were doing like something in biology class, I think. Was it? She's like, oh, I just hate cold, wet things. And Edward and they go to like a reaction shot of Edward just being like, oh,
but I'm cold and it's raining out.
It's cold and wet. Oh, I'm cold and wet. Oh.
So,
geez, beans.
They're trying to hide that Jacob is a werewolf, and he's being kind of a dick to Bella and just ignoring her and all this other stuff. And what I thought that they were alluding to was that he was in an MLM. But
no,
it's a better movie.
No, it's a multi-level wolf marketing wolf scheme. Boyks, sorry, it's MLW. God,
they also go to a movie in that film, which seems like a better film, and I would rather watch it, called Face Punch.
Hell yeah, they do.
And I really want to go see Face Punch now.
They do this whole thing where, oh god, so she has a bunch of side friends that. This was one of the weird things about it. They set it up that she's going to be made fun of, and everybody's going to be like, outsider, her at Bella. Like I said, they tease her when she pulls up in her truck. But then she immediately befriends all the most popular kids in school, and they all really like her. And she treats them like shit. She just constantly abandons them and is like, well, I've got to go out with my boyfriend, Edward. I don't want to be with any of you. And he's very solitary, so we can't be around you guys anymore. But then she just calls them up to hang out whenever she wants. Yeah. And they all go, all right, I guess. And like, they even do it like that. They're even like, oh my God, she's kind of flaky like that. They have, for the face punch thing, it's because there's this guy that really wants to date her in that group. And he seems fine. There's nothing wrong with him, right? Like, he's just...
Except he can't watch violent movies.
I guess.
Because they make him vomit when he sees blood and punching.
Yeah, he vomited at Face Puncher, and that's
He's such
the only time that it shows something bad about him, quote unquote. And like him vomiting at a gore movie is the worst thing that they can think to make him unattractive, rather than like all of the I watch you at night shit that all of the actual romance characters do. Because he just asks her to this movie. Like, he asks her out to a movie, and he's like, hey, can I take you somewhere? And then she's like, well, sure, let's make it an action movie. Does anybody else want to come? And she just then randomly invites more people and stuff just to fuck with him. And it's just, God, that whole thing,
it's real.
I thought it was really funny, though, that the one character that she doesn't want to be with that likes her is the only person that I'm like, hey, he seems like a reasonable person. She should probably go
right. Yeah.
Like,
so Stephenie Meyer shows a little bit too much about her writing at one point, and she has one of the vampires say to Bella that you are prone to life-threatening idiocy.
Yes.
Very funny. There's also at some point in that film, after they fly Virgin, they fly to Italy to join an Assassin's Creed festival, so that they can meet the Italian vampire mob.
Yes.
Why is the vampire mob Italian? What? Why did they need to go to old Italy during a festival that happened in the 1500s?
I like this stuff. What? I like the idea of... I don't know. I've always liked the vampire lore of like the old European families, like it's like the old blood, like... Because that's all linked into the aristocracy side of vampire lore, right? And I liked that. I thought that's kind of fun.
I think like that part's fun, but the fact that they're specifically Italian and a mob.
It's
like they could have gabagooled me at any moment, and I would have been like, yeah,
that's fair. It's fair. It's also just very over the top, because of course the reason that he goes there is so that he can publicly execute himself by revealing himself to people, which is just okay.
Yeah.
I do find with the public reveal stuff too, I do want to mention that like one of the things that a lot of people, you'll always hear like, oh, sparkle vampires, and people make fun of this movie for that, like, because he turns into diamonds when he's in the sunlight. He just sparkles, like his skin turns very spark.
He gets glittery.
He
That's
gets
it.
glittery.
Yeah.
And they show vampires as basically being hard. Like they kind of, it's like they're like
they have
almost like
chitin.
golems.
Yeah, they have chitinous skin.
And they're almost like golems. Like when you rip them apart, they don't have
they
spines
crumble
and
into
stuff.
dirt and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and like they don't even have spines. Like when it shows them getting beheaded and stuff in all the fights, which happens a lot in this movie. As we said, it's weirdly violent. It's like they're like made out of like stone, like it's like bismuth, right? Do you know what I mean? Like
I know what you're talking about.
Like it's like rock formations. Yeah, I'm just trying to like pull it up
like a mineral.
Too. They're like minerals. A mineral. And everybody likes to make fun of that. And I actually think that was a fine choice. Cool lore. Yeah, and I thought that was neat because like I think that yes, it's stupid that's considered a downside, but also consider the fact that they're very specifically trying to make it so that there are no downsides to being a vampire in this universe. Like, that's the point. It's supposed to be attractive and sexy.
From a practical standpoint, it also means that their movie doesn't have to be rated higher.
Yes.
Because there's no gore, there's just stone.
Yes. Yeah.
So it makes sense from a practical standpoint.
It makes sense from
their goal is to make the film watchable by teenagers.
Yeah, it's to make it watchable to teenagers and also to make the vampires attractive and not just in like a sexy way, but also you would want to be a vampire. So like making it so that you give motivation to Bella where she desperately wants to be immortal and she wants to be a vampire. You need to show that there are very few downsides to it and stuff. And also your audience wants to be vampires too. Like they're trying to be Bella, right? You want them to want to be a vampire. So like they're making the vampires very attractive. Anyway.
So at the end of the third movie, though, going back to the Romeo and Juliet, there's a scene near the end where they turn towards the camera and they're like, hey, you know this thing? It's just like that one thing from Romeo and Juliet. Do you remember? And then they turn back. Like,
yes.
Like it stops the scene to be like, hey, remember Romeo and Juliet? Like...
They do that a few times during those movies.
It's
to
so
be like,
funny.
hey, by the way, did you know that we're doing a Romeo and Juliet thing? Did you know that? Did you know we're doing it?
And then
it's totally happening,
during that same
guys.
scene, Victoria has been manipulating this vampire, Riley, who's the one that's gaining the army to attack the Cullens, which gets slapped aside immediately. Their whole army dies in about 4 minutes.
That's the third movie, is that
funny.
They make a vampire army to attack everybody in the town because they want to kill Bella. There you go. That's the third story.
So then Victoria and Riley find Edward and Bella in their cheap, I don't know, $50 tent that they bought at a sports store in the middle of the woods, and they're about to duke it out. And then we have an Air Bud scene where Edward and Victoria are pulling for, come on, Riley, come on. Yes. Victoria's just tricking you. And then she's like, no, I'm not. I love you. Come on. Come to Edward.
No, come to Edward. Edward, listen.
No. And then Victoria's like, no, come to your mama. Come to your mama.
Yeah.
Back and forth, like Air Bud.
And he's going like looking both ways, like trying to figure out who he needs to side with. Yeah, they do.
They do a literal Air Bud scene, like Son of the Mask. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. And that scene ends with him just being dragged off screen, and Victoria's like, yeah, I never really cared about him to begin with.
Yeah, he gets murdered right away, and he's like, come rescue me, and she goes,
Oh, man, yeah, okay. That's all the funny stuff I had. I don't know if you had anything.
I had one other thing that was just like, I kind of liked it because it's one of the very few moments that she actually connects to Edward in like a human way, where they actually have some semblance of why this relationship is going anywhere. In that she goes to his house the first time and she's like checking out his stuff, and she finds a rain stick. And she's like, oh, I used to make these. And she's like having this little moment with him. But also when she explains that she used to make them, they go into detail on how she does it. She's like, I love to make them out of my chinchilla shit. My chinchilla would shit everywhere. And my mom and I thought it was really funny to put them in cardboard tubes and shake them around so it sounded like a rain stick. And we'd have fun chinchilla shit times. And I'm like,
This is the
All
author.
right.
The author did this and then wrote it into the story and was like, everybody's gonna relate to this.
It was kind of like I
Yeah.
actually like that they.
Oh man.
Honestly, I wish that the movie had way more of that stuff because it made her seem like an actual fucking person, even if it was
It did,
weird.
yeah.
Because there was so little else. Like there was so little besides.
Speaking
that.
of, so much of this movie is telling you how people like feel and what they're doing and why they're doing things, and none of it is showing you. It's all just straight up telling you what happened.
And sometimes that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the like, show don't tell stuff because people take that as like a law
but if
that
it's
you
the
can
whole
only show.
story,
But it's the only
right?
thing.
Like,
yes, exactly. Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels very condescending a lot of the time because it's like, you won't get this, so here, let us just explain it to you.
As an example, at the end of the third movie, Bella is talking to Edward because now they're going to marry. And she's like,
Oh my God, yeah.
this whole thing wasn't actually a choice between Edward and Jacob. It was a choice between me and growing up and picking my own life. It wasn't the thing you thought it was at all, viewer.
Yes.
And they like telling you straight up, like, did you get it? That's what I wrote.
Also, I mean, we saw for the last 2.5 hours her screaming, literally, in screaming terror fits because she couldn't grasp her own mortality because she wanted so desperately to be a vampire. And then she goes, did you get that my choice was actually whether or not to be a vampire? Did you get that? And it's like,
did you get it?
Yeah, I think we got it.
Did you get that it's
understood.
Romeo and Juliet? Did you get it?
Well, and like that it's Romeo and Juliet. Like Juliet just wants Romeo because Romeo can give her an elixir of eternal life.
Yeah, right. Fucking A. Okay, I think we're ready to start wrapping this up.
I think we are. I wanted to say one other thing that I did think was very funny is, so Edward in the first movie, we were saying about the pecs thing and how often they make sure that they show pecs. They have a lot of people that are constantly shirtless for the guys. Like,
yes.
Not just the two lead characters, but a lot of other side characters. Anybody that is ripped is constantly shirtless. The exception being, I love this stuff. It was just so naked, and I didn't. No pun intended. With its intentions,
I get it. You have naked dude pecs on your brain. I get it.
But like Edward, I had a viewer show up and be like, "Why is Edward in high school and constantly in like an ascot or a suit or like a wool jacket and stuff, like all these like very adult, obvious like." Classy outfits. I'm like, because it makes Robert Pattinson look good. And as I was saying that, and Jacob shows up and he immediately finds an excuse to pop his shirt off within 3 seconds of coming on the scene. And I'm like why this is happening? Because Taylor Lautner is fucking shredded. And so they do the exact opposite with him. So it was great how much they like Jacob. Every 5 seconds that she's around Jacob, she like scrapes her knee and starts bleeding, and so he has to rip his shirt off to like make a tourniquet or like stop the blood so that he's shirtless. And Edward has to always be in like an ascot and suit and stuff. So I'm like, you get both. You get all the flavors. She gets like the hot muscle guy, and she gets like the sad business boy. Like she gets all of the different ones. Yeah. She gets the whole gamut. And I'm like, it was so blatant with it. I loved it.
Edward Cullen is the Dilbert of this film series. You weren't expecting that.
Explain. I just need. Does his tie go up or go flat when he finally?
His tie goes up. He's the business guy, where all the other characters are the ones that are interesting.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Oh god, that's true. Yeah, Edward is super uninteresting as a character.
All right, there's 3 movies we watched. Let's rate the dog. So the first movie had a dog. Technically, there was a dog. I saw a dog in that movie. It was a German Shepherd in about 5 seconds of scene where they were showing the dog searching for missing people in the woods.
Yes.
That is the only dog in that entire fucking movie.
I was so disappointed because they introduced Jacob before they introduce Edward.
There's implied dogs with Jacob in that movie, but there are no dogs other than the German Shepherd.
He shows up in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
and they introduce him as a major character. Like, they do all this backstory on him and how they used to be friends when they were kids and all this stuff, and like how his dad is friends with her dad, and they're trying to set them up. And then he leaves for an hour.
He just leaves, yeah. And then he comes
And then he
back
shows
at the
up
end.
one last time, like for half a second, and then he's gone. And I'm like, wait, did they just not get into Jacob at all in the first movie? And it's like, nope, nothing.
Nope.
None of it.
So that German Shepherd is a good search and rescue dog. Probably could solve a murder of some sort of a puzzler. 12 out of 10. That's a good dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Second movie is where they introduce all the werewolves and the tribe. And there's just werewolves everywhere. Like, I don't know, at least 8 to 10 werewolves in that movie. Somewhere.
Yeah,
It's
something like that.
7 or 8, something like that. They're all shirtless all the time. They're running around in the rain like bros, wrestling in the mud, kissing sometimes. It's very cute.
They're just having a great time. He
They're
gets
having
to
a real good
wrestling
time.
over who likes Bella most
Yeah.
in the woods with one of his mates, and they come back and they all have supper together where they shirtlessly rip into chicken.
And outside of the times where their testosterone takes over and they become really aggressive, shitty people, I would say all the background dogs are good. They're all good boys.
They're all good boys. They go
But
out in the woods
Jacob-
and they pet each other and have fun.
But Jacob, I don't know. I don't think Jacob's a good boy.
Jacob,
I don't.
I want to put
Jacob
it this
movie
way.
1's a good boy.
Jacob movie 1 is a good boy. Jacob movie 1.5 is a great boy, where he comes by and he helps her build motorcycles and gets her out of her depression by just being supportive and nice and never pressuring her and being super not creepy and being like, hey, listen, if you need space, just tell me you need space. If you need me here, then tell me you need me here. I'll do whatever you want. We can just get you out of this funk that you're in. Obviously, you're going through some tough times, so I'll be here for you. I'm a good friend. And he was awesome. And then all of a sudden, you get movie 1.5, halfway through the second movie, then suddenly Jacob is the worst boy. So I think there's just multiple Jacobs. I think that so there's all the supernatural stuff in this movie. I'm going to posit a Twilight fan theory here, because I that's in the keeping of the Twilight fandom. I'm part of the Twilight fandom now. I'm writing my fanfic. I'm Team Jacob. Halfway through book 2 is when Jacob gets possessed by a ghost, and that ghost is a misogynist piece of shit, and it twists Jacob into a horrible monster. And I wish that Bella had noticed and exorcised this ghost from Jacob, because he's the best boy, and I won't brook anything else. That's all just ghost Jacob. It's backage. It's reverse Jacob.
Yeah. I would say Jacob at this point is avoid at all costs out of 10. Do not go near that dog.
That
is where
he
I'm at
needs
on
to be
Jacob.
put down.
Yeah. And then the third movie, they introduce a few new dogs to the pack. They are also very good boys. They're very good boys. The only thing that makes me think I like the third movie over the second movie is that it is the only instance of a pet in the entire 3 movies that we watched.
That's not true.
Bella pets Jacob as a dog.
Oh, okay. Film. Yeah, she does pet Jacob as a dog.
Only pet that I counted.
You don't count the night where she was so cold out in the woods with Jacob and Edward can't warm her up because because he's super cold, and then Jacob because Jacob is hot, he has to go and lie next to her and warm her up. But it'd be better if they were both naked, because then their body heat would get together, and Jacob just has to, and Edward has to sit in the corner and watch them, because he likes that. That's not a pet.
That's not a pet, though. That's a heavy pet. That's a heavy pet. That's a
then there you go. That counts as double. That counts as double pets, I think.
No. This is the only film with a dog that gets a pet.
It is. Yeah.
And it's 3 movies, 1 pet. This is a fucking disgrace.
Yeah. I do want to rate one other dog that you didn't mention. Like, I want to call out one member of the pack specifically. Because you're saying like in the third movie they start introducing more dogs. They do introduce the youngest member of the pack, who they say just turned, and he's 14. So I would like to give that one a death flag out of 10.
Definitely dying
holy
in the next movie out of 10.
Shit.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that he didn't die in this film. They went so hard into like, wow, he's so young to have this power awaken in him. It's going to be hard for him to fight vampires, the things that we have to do. It's really dangerous. Oh boy, but I mean, he's so young, nothing would happen to him, right? No, he's innocent and pure. It'd be terrible if something bad happened to that one. And you're like, Jesus Christ, guys. They just drape this kid in so many fucking death flags.
Yeah, one thing we didn't point out also is that all the werewolves have a hive mind.
Yes.
They all feel each other's feelings, can read each other's minds, can hear what each other are saying and talking. And
yeah, they do bring that up.
Again, just for plot convenience, so they don't need to explain things to each other. But they explain it anyway.
Yeah, it's generally because they need, like, werewolves to show up at various points where like they're like, oh shit, but wait, why would all these werewolves show up at this exact moment? It's like, oh, I know, because they can all just communicate with each other through any distance.
It's the same reason that Alice can
thoughts.
see the plot that's gonna happen. It's the same reason. Oh man. Okay, so that's Twilight, Twilight New Moon, Twilight Eclipse. 3 Twilights. We did it.
Twilights.
You could say it's the Twilight.
You won't.
No.
You can't call it that.
100 episodes.
100 episodes. Thank you so very, very much. As we read off every single one of them for our intro. Thank you all for being here. It's been a lot of fun. We'll put up a lot of different things, I think, on Twilight up on social media. I know I went and watched it in VR and actually recorded all of it. So I have a bunch of different moments of that. And I had a bunch of people. I left it open so that people could stop in and see me and just comment on what was going on. So I have a little bit of that maybe inside of some of those clips. So I'm going to try and sparse those out through here and maybe put some up on social media also. I'm excited for the next 3. The next 2. I unironically enjoyed my time with these movies. I don't think they're good movies. I don't think that it was like, I think they have a lot of huge problems with them, but I thought that they were funny to watch. I actually thought they were like enjoyable.
Like, so I watched Twilight probably about 2009, and that's about when I read the book. And the reason I did that is because I had a friend who told me I couldn't have an opinion on Twilight if I didn't, read it or watch it.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Fair.
So then I did that and then had an opinion on it.
See, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have an opinion on Twilight, so I didn't do any of that because I didn't want an opinion.
But my opinion, other than all the awful stuff we talked about, is that the first movie is a really good movie to watch with friends and just crack about and just make jokes.
It's really fun to watch.
It's
I
super fun.
It a lot.
Yeah.
I
was
not
for the intended reason.
No. Yeah. I think that some of it is intended. Like, I actually think that Twilight 1, that was the thing about the first movie in particular. Like, by movie 3, I was done. So, like, movie 1, I actually enjoyed myself quite a bit because I think that they do a little bit of, like, at the camera just every once in a while where they'll kind of ham it up a bit, where you kind of know that it's, like, the actors, like, everybody wants to make fun of sparkly vampires and the bad acting.
The sparkling is like so little. It's so not even important. Yeah.
It's so little, it's not important, and it makes sense for what they're trying to achieve. So I don't think that it's a problem the way that a lot of people do. And I don't think that the acting is that bad. I think that the acting by a lot of the characters is pretty okay to good. And the reason why it's bad is because of the fucking writing. And a lot of the times...
It's all the writing.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, the fun, like the thing that everybody's like, oh, this writing, this acting is so bad, is them hamming it up and actually having fun with something and doing something like just taking it a little too far. Like the cat guy in the bar that's just like, that guy's thinking about cats. And he's just like, yeah, that's me. I'm the weird trucker guy that likes cats. And he just like kind of turns to the camera and winks. And you're like, okay, I see it. Somebody on this film was like, hey, it's kind of a pile of shit, but we're having fun with it. Yeah. And like, I really appreciated a few of those moments. I thought they did a good job with some of those. By movie 3, so like movie 2 was a little bit interesting for me because that was about when the edibles hit. And
okay. So it's, you know what? I'm piecing this together now.
And then movie 3, and I felt like I was in a weird time loop because it was the same fucking movie but worse. And then the third one came along and got into all the weird religious side plot stuff about how much they hate abortion and need to get married so they can, you know, have children and love each other forever, and he can't destroy her virtue. And then that was insufferable. Movie 3 sucked. Movie 3 was awful, but movie 1 is a lot of fun. And I honestly am hoping that I really want to see the next 2. Like, I am actually excited to watch them because from my understanding, it goes back to what movie 1 does, but it's more self-aware even and just goes full ham into like, okay, we've got to resolve vampire war stuff in this universe, so we're gonna resolve it. Let's just get into like the most bloody fucking wild battle bullshit and get like Lord of the Rings fights into this romance movie out of nowhere. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to see that. I've heard how it ends and it sounds fantastic. Okay. So I actually would highly recommend watching this series with friends. The third movie is going to be rough, but I think that the first movie is actually really, like you said, it's a fun movie to watch if you're just sitting there like not taking it serious and just having fun with it.
But yeah, this is a bit of a longer episode, of course.
Yes. Sorry, I can talk about this for a while. We spent a lot of time with this one, so
we did. Thank you so much for listening throughout 3 years now. Also, this is also our 3-year when this releases. Yeah, so that's a long time and a lot of episodes, and the support is appreciated. Glad that you're enjoying this project that we've been working on for a while now.
After 3 years and 100 episodes, we've got to be getting close to being done all of the bad dog movies that are out there. And we wouldn't have to take any more breaks on weird stuff like Twilight and everything to make up for it, right? That's why we're doing it, and not because we need a break from all of the endless pile of horrible actual dog movies out there.
I think the well is endless. I actually do. I don't think
it's
there's
an abyss. It's not a well.
every time we like, all right, that's the list. Then more movies come out, and then I find more that already came out, and I never knew about.
You think it's a well, but it's actually an ocean. We're sitting on an island, and this well just goes under the island into the ocean. It is endless.
It's like we're in a room full of rakes, and we keep stepping on them.
God, like people think if anybody listening to this thinks that we do divergences like werewolf movies as dog movies, or like Crawl and stuff like that, because we're running out of dog films. No, it's because we need a break. There's too many. I can't endlessly do only the dogs. They're so bad. Yeah. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah. Before we go, we have to do the question. It's very important. Team Edward or Team Jacob? I think we can both say definitively that we are team...
Neither.
I'm Team Alice. You're Team Guy with Cat.
Oh, God. Okay. I'm Team Cat Guy. Yes. Okay. Hey, if she wants to get... That cat dude seems pretty fucking rad. He seems like he'd have a story. He had a really cool trucker beard, and he was super into cats. And I want to hear why. I need to hear all about it because, man, small town trucker dude generally can't be into cats. They're real weird about it. I don't know why. They shouldn't be, but they get weird about it. And I want to know why. That dude's cool with it. I think that he's rad.
There you go. There's your answer. See you next time, folks.
Team 30-year-old trucker dude. Yeah.
I think 18 is a little young to start worrying about that.
It's 1 year older than you.
No, it isn't. I'm 109.
Well, maybe I shouldn't be dating such an old man. It's gross. I should be thoroughly repulsed.
I'm also okay with this
Yes.
episode being in sections if we want for editing, because it might be long
Yeah.
since we have so much to talk about. But
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like we can go over a lot of the plot and stuff of these movies pretty quick. There's not a lot.
Plot? There's plot in the Twilight movie?
Well,
Oh man, I have to
let's
talk
save
about-
that, save it. No, we gotta.
Okay.
We gotta listen. We can't. If we fall into the Twilight Zone now, we're fucked, man. We gotta get the other stuff done.